if you have a challenge in your life and you're able, and I think everyone is able to go around that problem, to think about that problem in a different way. Got 40 investors on board after like 7 months of fundraising, but it was just me and an idea on Zoom. That loss of dignity.
Right.
You know, like, is this what I'm going to wear for the next 60 years of my life? Essentially, the table was the boardroom.
Wow.
That they fought. I don't think I have the maturity to actually build a proper business at the time.
You didn't.
I made, I think, a 300K mistake just by improved our acquisition costs by 40% every month. So that was the moment I knew it's not a category problem, it's how we tell the story.
Peony, welcome to What It Takes. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Good to be here.
Well, look, it's a pleasure to have you. Now, you've built an incredible business in a very interesting space, and you've kind of recreated a category. So there's lots to talk about today around your journey and how you've done that. But before we do, as we like to do on the show, is really understand your beginnings and kind of what life was like when you were younger. So can you just tell me a little bit, because I know you came from a pretty interesting entrepreneurial family. So I'd love to just understand a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, the honest summary of my childhood is I've got a lot of time on my own. I love alone time. My parents are obviously entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so they take a lot of time to build their business. And so it's a very independent childhood. Don't get me wrong, very privileged. I was always provided for. But I have a lot of time in my brain, like a playground. Lots of imagination, lots of possibilities, lots of questions, and needing to navigate a lot of different life stages on my own. I think it's probably the most prominent feature of my childhood.
Wow. Because you grew up in Hong Kong, right?
I grew up in Hong Kong.
Amazing.
And I moved to the UK when I was 15 on my own.
On your own?
Yeah, on my own. But I did boarding school.
Fine.
That kind of stuff. But before 15, give you some context, I think I share meals with my parents twice a week. And if I'm lucky, I get to see my dad maybe once or twice a month.
Wow.
I spend 20 minutes with my mum maybe every day, 10 in the morning,
Wow.
10 at night. So it's a lot of figuring things out on my own.
And did you have siblings as well?
I have an elder sister. But
Right.
She also went abroad to study when I was only 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. So the environment around entrepreneurship and building career in your future, how was that for you in your mind at, before you turned 15? What was the sort of perspective you had?
I hated because I hated what my parents was doing. They were running businesses together as a couple. So the good thing is that decisions get made really quickly. It was really efficient. But then they have so many different thoughts and opinions about the business. So, those 2 meals that I talked about, essentially the table was the boardroom.
Wow.
That they fought. And every meal was just them fighting about the business and talking about the business. So if you think about it, when you're 8 or when you're 10, you're just hearing all these fights and you just want to run away from that as much as you can. So I hated it for a long, long time. But the irony is that now I'm following their footsteps. I'm doing basically a similar business in a similar space. And that on its own, I think it's quite an interesting journey.
Yeah. For you, were you wanting to kind of actually follow in their full footsteps and take over the business they were building? Was that ever an interest for you?
I think now I'm still trying to run away from it.
Really?
The thing that I wanted to do is to try and build up my own business in a similar space. So then I think a big kind of is a discovery journey of wanting to understand why were they so obsessed about building the business? Why are they spending the time not with me, but doing what they were doing? And I think at the time I was thinking about why they prioritize work over spending time with me. But now I understand that they're actually prioritizing building the financial security for us. Of course, it comes with satisfaction. It comes with trying to build impact for other people as well. Now I'm getting all that satisfaction of building this business trope. So actually understanding your parents as a full person rather than just caretaker for you. It's what I guess I've taken away from doing this myself.
Yeah.
And how hard it is. And the work ethics, honestly, like all they do was just working. And the work ethics are just so inspirational. Like my dad is 70, my mom is 67, and they're still working full time. And it's not like behind a desk, like they were like on their feet, going to warehouses, going to their factories, going to care homes, and keep pushing. Going to Germany in November, like the most miserable time you can go. Just doing conferences, doing boxes, and yeah, I mean,
what do you think is driving them now then, considering you've kind of got your new thing and I don't know what your sister's doing now, but there's a level of like, success there. For you, what do you think keeps driving them forward?
I actually think it's a survivor mode that
Right.
they haven't fully recovered from that survival mode because they grew up in poverty.
Right.
And at the time, like in Hong Kong, if you're a little bit more hardworking, if you really push forward, like you can really build up wealth.
Right.
Like back in the days.
Is this like the 80s and 90s or like a little bit earlier than that? 70s. Right, okay.
80s, exactly. And I think they got like the formula of if you work hard, then success will come, financial security will come. And I think that's really diehard formula has not left them, even though they're now, like living a really good life, okay life, like children are all grown up. I think they're still used to that way of working.
Yeah. And for you being around it, you obviously mentioned it was tough because you weren't able to spend time with them, or didn't feel like they were present, or you felt disconnected for them. Did it make you want to, I guess you said you didn't like entrepreneurship as much, but did it make you want to kind of do anything else in terms of go into a more stable career and not build your own business at that time? Or was there always an idea that like, I might not like this, but actually I think I want to do this too?
I thought I wanted to go into a more stable career.
Right.
So there's less ups and downs. But then the first job I got was, investment banking, really structured, really promising start of like an early career. You earn a lot when you first start. And like, I just realized that that's not for me because of the structure, the rigor, and the habit you have to get to. I just don't understand. You need to check into the office, FaceTime until 4 a.m. in the weekends as well. It's a bit of an extreme version, but I just find it so boring.
So did you go you went to university and then went straight into investment banking?
Yeah.
But you were thinking that's going to be, what was...
I'd be on and all. Like,
really? Was that, what was driving you in that? Was it the cash, or was it the opportunity to grow?
Opportunity, like maybe the peer pressure, like everyone was trying to get into the most promising, like high flying career, like when you first start. And a lot of my friends still in the city.
Right.
But then I think like 5th, 6th month in, I'm like, well, this is not what I learned about work, seeing how my parents are. Like even they're really busy, they're really flexible. And they do things that they understand are meaningful, and are impactful and purposeful.
Yeah.
And what I found that I was doing in the city was just PowerPoint presentations, changing color from this color code to that color code, honestly. And I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending my time till 4 a.m. every day doing this thing?
Because I get the impression from kind of learning a little bit about you before the show that you're incredibly intelligent academically as well, right? You did very well at school and you enjoyed that process and that level, and going into investment banking. I find it interesting that for you, someone with very high intelligence academically, actually going into the world of that can kind of pay for being at that level, actually it feels like your creativity was being squashed. Would I be right in saying that?
Intellectual curiosity is just not being satisfied at all.
Yeah.
Problem solving, like there's no capacity to solve problems. And I think it's really at that point, I'm like, I really need to think about what I actually like and what I don't like. Maybe what I like is really entrepreneurship, starting something. And I was still in a little bit of a denial that I don't want to follow my parents' footsteps. Maybe it's a charity I want to do. Maybe it's a community that I want to build. But everything is surrounding building something from scratch,
Yeah. And so for you, tell me about some of those ideas. So obviously we'll get onto Jude, which is where you ended up.
Yeah.
But did you try a couple of other things?
Yeah,
did you
so
explore?
many things. Yeah,
What was...
I started a motherhood community.
Okay.
Even though I was not a mother. But then at the time, like people were talking about like not the not glamorous bit about motherhood and being a woman.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, let's put a community together, like women community, and just think about these topics that wasn't serviced on the magazine, on TV shows. And then boom, like 10,000 mums joined like in the first few months.
Wow.
And I was like, that's incredible. I can actually create forums for people to talk about things. And, going back to when I was young, I spent so much time in solitude, just in my own head.
Right.
And then I think this is a counter to that, is wanting to build social groups and belongings and to express myself in ways where I felt I haven't got when I was young. So that was the first bit. And then the second bit is after banking, I went to Founders Factory, which is a startup accelerator, incubator. And there I just surround myself with ideas, innovation, founders, and things just being built every single day around me. And I was on the side, like I think I was on the sideline because I was only doing investments.
Right.
But it was amazing just observing them and filling my mind with that creativity and that imagination again that I loved doing when I was a child. After that, I started to do it to build another business, but it was just didn't happen.
What was it?
It was again for women.
Okay.
It was again like a women's platform where we gave them tools to
Right.
be able to look after their health.
Okay.
But it's a marketplace where we match women with mental health physiotherapists, sleep therapists, so then they can actually get the different things that they need. So actually it's very much similar themes of communities, bring impact and benefits to women's lives, and seeing how we can solve that.
Why didn't that business work?
I think I didn't believe in it that much.
Right. Interesting.
And then B, I didn't think the business model was sound because it's a marketplace and you're basically charging a commission of that transaction or that consultation. And so at the time, Babylon Health was like amazing, but it was at the edge of people questioning about unit economics and things like that. And so it was a bit shaky. And also, I don't think I have the maturity to actually build a proper business at the time.
You didn't?
I didn't.
Interesting.
I only had 2 career experiences then, banking and then doing startup investments. So I did actually quit Founders Factory to try and explore this. But then, when you have so many ideas, but your body wasn't, your muscle was not strong enough to actually lift that weight. Like that is how I found it. But I do have the networks and I have to invest in networks and I try to kind of bounce ideas with investors and, they think the space is interesting, but they didn't think there is enough. And so I went to go and, put a founding team together, but things just haven't really stack up.
How were you feeling at that point? Personally, were you feeling a little bit lost?
Failure, lost.
How do you deal with that? How were you dealing with that?
Yeah, I was trying to think about it at the time is that actually there is so much that I want to do and I'm still, 24 years old?
Yeah.
And so maybe I just need to go and get more experience. I just need to train up my muscles and train up like my capacity to be able to actualize what this brain, are capable to deliver. And so then I went to a very early kind of women's health team as an operator, head of operations. I learned so much from the founder and the team.
Was that a day?
A day. It was pre-launch. And so from there, I was like, okay, this is actually how you do it. This is how you go from an idea to fundraising to just reaching out to people to executing stuff. Because that I hadn't had experience doing that before. I was always kind of on the sidelines, I call it. But what really came together was another business that I did during COVID, which is distributing protective equipment to nurses, frontline workers, and carers in care homes. And it was a very simple, I know this is a very short time horizon for that business, but it really gave me that confidence to go and say, actually, I can do it. And I can do it as a solo founder. But yeah, we distributed about 6 million pieces of PPE.
6
just
million?
Me on my own. It's like £500,000 business. It's profitable.
Wow.
The profit margins are quite low because, it was a social impact project.
Got it.
More so
Yeah.
than like a profitable business. But that gave me the startup capital for Jude, actually. That PPE business was a funny one. It was me from sourcing products, shipping them over. It was stuck in some warehouses because COVID, all the logistics were like messed up. Messaging the CEO of FedEx and DHL on LinkedIn and be like, you are holding up essential goods and protective equipment. Like,
wow,
where is it right now? I've messaged your team, and then he replied and like gave me a contact. And then I have to go to the contact. I have to go to the warehouse in London to retrieve basically boxes that is like the size of this room.
Wow.
And then drove to my home, stack up all the boxes, and next day a lorry come to pick up to deliver it to a care home. So I did, I think, 10, 20 rounds of that kind of delivery. And then there's obviously trying to connect with frontline workers like on my own rather than delivering in bulk. So got this mailing list of, I don't know, like 20,000 frontline workers and nurses, and just email sending them, this is the price, we can do same day delivery or next day delivery, do you want it? And so every day was printing like miles and miles of like shipping labels, putting on like my DIY packaging. It was fun. It was
I was gonna say, did you enjoy that kind of like, I guess, the grind and the hustle of that time?
Loved it. Honestly, I loved it. And I think that was the moment I was like, God, this is really the golden triangle, what I'm like looking for, you know, supporting people in the time of need for their health, doing something that I've got the flexibility, the problem solving capacity, intellectual curiosity, and also being able to find sustainability in my own life and financial compensation. I was like, let me scale this. Where can we do this? Where else can we do this?
I guess before we do talk about what you then went to do, that feeling of being a bit lost and the plan not working out, like for you, it was kind of coming to the UK at 15, great education, go into the investment banking world, lost. You know, that was your experience. What would be your advice for someone who is going through that themselves, when the plan they had in their mind for that, maybe a lot of their childhood, in the early years, their first step into a career? What would be your advice to them?
I would say overcoming challenges is a privilege. It really is. If you have a challenge in your life and you're able, and I think everyone is able to go around that problem, to think about that problem in a different way, to find these answers, and they are like springboards for your life. Put aside career, I think. We're tested in our life, and I believe everyone is capable of being greater versions of themselves. But what can really bring those moments to you and prove that is about overcoming challenges.
Yeah, definitely. So starting the business, day one, where did the initial idea really come from? Obviously, it seems like it came from a lot of your lived experience to date of starting Jude, but what was your inception point where you thought, this is where the direction I want to go?
Yeah. So I had bladder problems when I was 15, just about when I was moving countries to the UK. So my healthcare system, I have to navigate a whole new healthcare system. I don't have a support system around me. I mean, boarding school, they don't really talk about any of these things. And so that really was like the starting origin story of, again, not feeling heard, again, feeling really overlooked. I already felt that way when I was young because of not having time with my parents. But then that's another kind of episode of just needing to navigate things on my own. And I was dismissed by so many doctors, waiting around emergency rooms and doctors' rooms for hours on end. And then after the PPE business, I've got a flare up again because I was really stressed. And so I went into Boots and went into the supermarket and then just look at these aisles. By the time I was already like, I know the tampon space very well because of Day. And then I was like, is this another aisle actually I can do something about? You know, that aisle is full of pads, nappies. And that aisle just made everyone who walked into that kind of space just felt loss of dignity.
Right.
You know, like is this what I'm going to wear for the next 60 years of my life? Do I need to spend this amount of money just to manage, just to cope? And I think that was really the inception point of, I can do something about this. Let's find solutions that I personally adopted to manage, not using pads.
Why would none of the big pharmaceutical brands do anything about it, do you think? Because it seems like from what you're saying, in my interpretation of that, it was a pretty large scale problem in many ways that was getting not really spoken about. And there's an opportunity within that. Do you think there's a reason why big pharma weren't doing anything to do more in the space?
I think they are doing
Right.
stuff in the space from a medication point of view, from a surgical, medical kind of product point of view.
Yeah.
So that market is like huge market size, massive market share that they have to be conducted by a healthcare professional. And I think the dots between self-management, proactive management, using supplements for bladder problems and pelvic floor problems, it's just a white space.
Right.
And I don't think any founders, probably that are my age, have come across their own personal problem and maybe felt like this is a really unsexy topic to talk about. I think there is found a product market fit there.
Yeah. So you're in the Art of Boots thinking my skill set is a solution to fix this, right? Or
First and foremost, feeling miserable. These diapers or nappies you have to wear, they're just horrible.
Really?
They're like so bulky. It's like giving your baby that nappy, but you have to wear it now. God. It's terrible.
So what was the idea originally that you were going to fix that problem? Where did it start? Because what I always find interesting about brands like Jude, especially in health and supplementation or medical, or even in like F&B in these areas, the original idea is quite different from what it now is. And I love that kind of like expansion piece. So what was the first idea of what you could fix?
Yeah, I was thinking to make a super pad that absorb like a nappy, but it's like so thin and very feminine, and it's also plant-based, so it's like good for the body, good for the environment. And because my parents are in this space and they're a manufacturer in these disposable items, I was like, well, like let's put my ego aside and work with my parents for once. And so we then like developed this plant-based pad, and it was great. And we tested with a lot of women, and they were like, oh, it's so good that I almost forgot about my incontinence. And I'm like, so why don't I solve the why in the beginning? Why don't I solve not having bladder problems to start with? So then I went into research papers to look at ingredients, because I've been doing that a lot on my own when I had my own problems.
All right.
Looking at ingredients, looking at lifestyle intervention, looking at exercises that could fix this issue. And, it was fixed apart from some flare-ups now and then. So then I like partnered with a professor from Harvard, a scientist, a doctor, and we looked at all the research that talks about overactive bladder, UTIs, pelvic floor problems, what kind of supplementation, herbal extracts that could solve this problem. And that has placebo-controlled golden trials that we can actually lean on.
So had all this research been happening for a while?
The independent research actually has been happening for a long time in Asia.
Okay.
In Asia. And these trials have been conducted in Japan, in Korea, in China. And so we're like, okay, let's test it with the UK cohort, with the Western cohort, and see, is it effective? And so, I remember harassing the raw ingredient manufacturer as well, because there's only one ingredient manufacturer that can do the ingredients to the spec that we want, to the extraction ratio that we want. You can only find these pumpkin seeds in Austria, in one part of Austria.
What's in the product?
Yeah, that's our hero ingredient. So like the supermarket pumpkin seeds, like, does not work. All the Amazon stuff doesn't work. Like, you have to go to this
Austrian pumpkin
seeds.
Austria. How did you get to Austrian pumpkin seeds? Is this through the research work you were doing?
Through the research work.
Wow.
And it's a specific strain of pumpkin seed from that region, that they have that soil and that climate to produce the bioactives that is in that pumpkin seed. So I was emailing our raw ingredient manufacturer, and we actually still work with the same person now.
Really?
I just had a call with her a few days ago. And I even got her WhatsApp and just WhatsApping her. I was like, can you ship us just some samples and we'll make it into capsules and then we'll send it to our community. By the time we already built a few thousand people community that can test these products. So we sent it to them and the response was just phenomenal. She was like, a lot of the women was like, week 5, I cannot believe I don't have these problems anymore.
And what was this supplement fixing directly as a problem?
Overactive bladder,
right?
Urgency, needing to go to toilet a lot in the day, needing to wake up at night to go to the toilet. It just feels quite trivial, but actually 80% of women over the age of like 45 have these issues.
I imagine it can also control a woman's life pretty much, right? The anxiety of that, the stress of that.
I was forced to live a very small life when I was in boarding school and university.
Really?
Because I had to be near the toilet all the time.
Yeah.
So if you think about sports, if you think about going out partying and clubbing, having alcohol, which triggers these flare-ups.
Yeah, even going on a day trip with friends, or it's a smaller, the smallest things. That. Wow. So when you're going through this process of discovery, in terms of your figuring out what products we can create and trial and test, because of your journey and what you've been through, what was that kind of emotional connection to you? Did you feel like you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping so many others? And how much of that was quite emotional for you in a way?
I always actually say Jude is not just a bladder brand. It's a women's strength brand.
Right.
Because I think strength comes from having dignity, having the knowledge, having tools, but also having agency for your body, knowing what you can do. And I think like Jude is a culmination of all of that I want to bring to another women who have never felt seen in our healthcare system, who are told that there is no solution. Pads is going to be your endpoint and your destination from now to the day that in your deathbed, you're going to be wearing that pad. I think it's about giving that dignity. And so the connection to me, it's actually going back to my childhood of like, I want to be able to have agency for what I do. I want to be seen. I want to be heard.
So as you start to develop out the products, I imagine this is all getting quite expensive.
Very expensive.
So how are you overcoming that challenge?
So we have to do it step by step because we also don't have a lot of funding to start with. We're now talking about a biotech company that goes into clinical trials, that goes into molecular testing. Like this is what we're now doing as a company. Yeah. But as we started, we don't have that capacity. So we have to lean on independent trials that were done before us in Asian cohorts. We bring it to the UK. We work with a manufacturer and the raw ingredient manufacturer to do what we call V1 of our product.
Right. So at this point, you have the pads that are yours. Was that in mass distribution, or was that just being used? Were you selling those as well?
I was already selling them.
So there's revenue coming from there, and you were developing one main product. Right, got it.
Then I was developing the supplement.
Yes.
So actually the first version of the supplement didn't take long because as soon as I got hold of the raw ingredients and a manufacturer, we can start shipping the products. And because we know it already worked and there's a lot of science behind it. But the second version of the product actually came like 3 years after.
3 years?
We have to set up our own labs, our science team, partnerships with 2 universities and clinical trials for us to be able to actually patent the product.
Wow.
Enhance the product. So it doesn't just work for Asian cohorts, it works better for like Western cohorts as well. And sort of the first product and the new product, what people don't see behind the scenes is actually we then become a biotech company.
Wow. So how are you actually funding this growth? Did you raise capital at this stage?
We raised 2 million at the start.
Right.
And then we raised another 2.5, 3 million for our like seed round.
And that's to get you to the point of having V2 of the product completed and ready to distribute at scale.
And then our revenue and our profits also all goes back to women's health R&D. And actually, every woman we support now, we put £13 back into women's health R&D. So think about the CAC. On top of the CAC, we have the R&D as well.
Wow. So how did you find raising money is interesting, right? And this was, when was this? What time is this? 2020? This is 22,
First
23?
round is 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
How did you, that was an interesting time to raise money because there was a lot of money being raised.
It was
then,
amazing.
Right? It was a great time. I think people call it as the golden years when I
Mm.
speak to people. Even though it was a good and easy time, so not easy, but like it was a better time to raise that kind of capital. How did you find selling the idea to other people? Because listening to you now, I can understand the passion for it. I can understand the problem you're trying to solve. But I know in a lot of these health and wellness brands, a lot of investors don't get it, and they actually care more about what's the LTV a year going to be on a subscription or whatever it might be. So what was your experience like?
Yeah, I pitched to like 100 investors.
Wow.
I think only 1 or 2 say yes.
100. What do you think? What was the biggest challenge for you in that situation?
I think people were just like, "Are you mad?
Really?
Like, what are you talking about? Incontinence? It's the last thing we'll invest in. There's no virality. People are not going to talk about it. You're selling to older people, so digital is going to be very hard."
They thought you would be selling to sort of like 45, 50 plus only.
Because that is like it's still our biggest demographic.
Right.
It's like 45 plus women.
Yeah.
At the time, like it was quite hard. Like CAC is going to be high. So when they look at these fundamentals, they know this business is not gonna like fly or work. But 1 or 2 like understood the size of the problem,
Right.
understood there were no competitors, understood the white space, and were kind enough to give me so much time to really talk about it. And when I pitched, I also don't have a product. It was really the idea in my brain. And going back to this really rich inner world, I was quite good at telling that story of the inner world and showing videos, showing this community that we've built and the depth of despair these women are in and this unmet need. And that alone at the time when capital was sufficient was actually enough for me to get 1 yes. And that 1 yes rolled in 2 yeses. And then we got 40 investors on board after like 7 months of fundraising. But it was me, just me and an idea on Zoom. Yeah.
Where does this self-drive come from in sitting in front of 100 people? It's more than 100 people sometimes, right? Because there's various people on a call, and getting those a lot in COVID, in a pandemic, but you believe in the idea so much. Where does the drive come from?
I think it's being able to probably tell my parents, yes, even though you didn't spend a lot of time with me, like I am a valuable member of the family.
Really?
Like see me and I can do as good as you're doing in your business. And now I'm in business. So maybe you'll spend more time with me. I think that it came from that.
Really? Do you still bat with that today?
I think so. I think so. But at the same time, I think it's quite difficult to let my parents know what I'm doing now, because they know I'm running a business,
Right.
but it's a space that they don't understand. The funding model is very different because
Right.
they were bootstrapping the whole way. But I still believe. I mean, I believe that they love me a lot, honestly, and they of course treat me as a very valuable member of the family. But I think it was held belief that I had then, and now it transpired to, well, we can talk about something else. You know, we can talk about that we have more topics in common.
It's interesting, right? You're kind of basically saying that the driver is proving people wrong a little bit, right?
It really is.
And it's so interesting how many people I've interviewed now where like that's really the root cause. And I think that it feels really negative because it feels like that's negative energy driving you forward, and there's like something you're holding on to, and that's a bad thing. But actually I do think that some of the most exciting brands and businesses are proving people wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like the investors, it's the family member, it's the friend, it's the ex-business partner, whatever it might be, you know, it's the people that you're like, oh no, everyone thought this wasn't going to work, I'm going to prove that forward. But in the moment when you're going through fundraising and so many people are saying no, how did you personally deal with that? Because you were by yourself.
Yeah.
So how did you go through that? Like, how did you have that conversation with yourself?
I just said a lot of people are gonna say no because I
Up front.
I knew what it's gonna be like. I've been an investor before. I've said no to a lot of people.
Right.
When it comes to them asking for investment, so I know the default is going to be no. I'll be lucky if I get 1 yes. That was my mindset. That really was my mindset. And so if I set the bar so low for a response, then what I can do is to give it my all. I recorded all my investor pitch actually, and then I would like look at the investor pitch and I'm like, I can do better here. I can tell a better story here, and I think that is a fuel to just make it better for the outcomes really.
And you would, that first round, you wanted to raise 2 million quid, or you were raising less and got more, or you were raising more and got less?
I wanted to raise 700K.
Oh wow.
Because I also didn't know that I would be able to raise 2 million if it's just one person that has done, you know, a PPE business that wasn't really, you know, valued by investors, I suppose. So it was an like very oversubscribed round.
So you raised about 5 million quid, I think to get to V2 of the supplement business. And in that going live, what was the kind of initial response to that product being on the market? Because it was basically a brand new category, right?
As in like a few years ago.
Yeah.
You know, the response was actually really good. I think we found product market fit for the supplement really quickly.
Right.
And then the retention was also really good because the product actually works. And so I knew I got something for the business. When we tried to scale it, it was really hard. Scale that product market fit.
Right.
Because of category awareness, because people not knowing that there is a bladder supplement or whether they can trust it. So like I think about, you know, acquiring customers, and there is a pot of customers are like really early adopters. They will try anything, you know, to get better. And then once you get exhausted that pool, then you have a more difficult customer to go after, and then more chasms that you have to cross. And so actually before Dragon's Den, it was about a year and a half of like running the business. It was very challenging.
And you had raised 5 million by this point. The product was on the market.
Yeah.
Of the 5 million quid you'd raised, how much of it had to go into product versus growing the category and marketing it?
Yeah, I would say maybe at the start, 20% went into the product.
Right, okay.
And then a lot went into testing the proposition.
Right.
Getting trust signals for the product is also not an easy thing to do. So you have the product, you have the marketing, but then actually for women's health, there is a lot of trust building assets you have to do and you have to invest in. So investing in clinicals, investing in doctors, investing in scientists, investing in partnerships that will build that mold for you.
Right.
And I think this is the part where a lot of brands don't talk about. You have a product, and then you ship that product and you put marketing spend in it. Like that is a standard model for a lot of products. But for health,
so how much can we spend on Facebook ads? Yeah.
This is the layer where we spend a lot on.
Right. So that's investing in building reputation of the product and the brand.
Yeah.
But you think a lot of brands don't value that?
I think a lot of brands don't have to do it. If you think about it, if you're selling leggings, the product is good, and then you put marketing spend and brand, that's it. Of course, a lot of the trust signals come from what fabric you use, you know, the environmental impact of the leggings is just an example, right?
Who's wearing them, that kind of thing.
But then for supplements, you have a product, but you have to explain the product. The Austrian pumpkin seed, we have to go to Austria. Like we have to do a lot of these things. We have to understand the bioactive is just L-arginine, the ratio in it. How does it compare with other pumpkin seed? Then lots of testing needs to be done. So yeah, that is, I felt quite particular to our category, quite particular to health and women's health.
Yeah. And the run up to going on Dragon's Den, which you mentioned a second ago, you're saying it's quite a hard time. How hard did it get?
Hard. I think we had some early success, and that early success made us like, let's put more in Meta. And then to a point where
I've heard that story so many times.
It was so hard. It was like, we'll never get profitability from any cohorts in our customers. So I was really questioning, okay, like it feels like this product has a place, but can it scale? You know, is it really a viable business? Like I have a lot of these questions in my mind before Dragon's Den.
You were asking yourself this stuff. That's quite a hard time, no?
It was a really hard time.
Because you're really questioning your own abilities, but also something you spent a lot of time doing.
Yeah.
How do you get through that? How did you get to the other side?
It's a good question. I think I've like some blackout for that period because it was so tough. And the way that I'm doing it is just really putting spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks.
Do you know what? I think everyone's been there,
Yeah.
like in building something. It's like you go through that blackout phase where actually you're kind of just on autopilot. You're just basically trying to stay in the game. You know, you're just sort of keeping the dice on the board, if you will, and moving forward in that. It seems like that was very similar for you.
Yeah, I think one thing that I did right though, is try to go back to doing unscalable things. So really reaching out to influencers, even though there's no influencer program. We still don't have an influencer program. We don't really believe in it. We believe in efficacy. And so reaching out to people one by one, like by myself, shipping products, going to visit them, talk to them, really get them to believe in the brand. That takes a lot of time. And then once we have this initial actually 4 influencers and 4 like, I guess, thought leaders in the space, we then started filming content and I was scripting because I want to make sure the script is exactly how the category story is being told. And then I just brought along a content creator with me and filming in the field with a dog because she can't walk a dog because she needs to go to the toilet. So we did that. And those content and those creatives like improved our acquisition costs by like 40% every month. So that was the moment I knew it's not a category problem. It's how we tell the story and how much we have to get into telling that story makes or breaks this business.
We my main business is a marketing agency, right? And that's kind of where I spent my years. And I think at the moment it's basically resonate or die. That's kind of how we think about things, is that unless you are resonating with an audience, you can't just shove down an offer down their throats or tell them that it's great or whatever it might be. If you don't resonate with that key persona and those sub personas as well, particularly on Meta now, and particularly within organic social and with creators, you know, Kim Kardashian could pick up your brand tomorrow, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work because like it's a different, people want different things and there's so many different opinions and personalization and that sort of stuff, right? So it's a really different game in the marketing world. And it's so fascinating. What the question I want to ask you, the attention to detail piece of the way you work, do you find it exhausting?
I think my team find it quite exhausting. I mean, at a young age, I know how important attention to details are.
Right.
Banking was one. Color coding is like drilled into me. But I was also a part of. There's a side story. I was part of building a real aircraft.
Building a real aircraft,
a 2-seater. It's called RV8. It flew around the world. But I was part of that team to build that plane, and I made, I think, a 300K mistake just by riveting a wrong rivet into the aluminum sheet. And that was the day I learned attention to details has a huge cost, and it stopped our production for that plane for about 3 months.
Because you drilled in the wrong rivet?
Yeah.
So what was that like the setting stone for you from that moment on? You just...
Attention to details. And sweating the details. And I think my team find it quite exhausting because I'm obviously a founder and I don't want to micromanage, but I think it's about getting them round to understand the resonance, the customer resonance. Actually, you have to know their languages, like how they talk about some stuff. You can't just ship a box standard script to creators. And I think that really shifted the mindset that we work when it comes to creating.
How do you... It's interesting because so many people have been on the show recently. Actually, we've done a few episodes with a lot of chefs, you know, chefs at the top of their game, Michelin star, you know, doing incredibly well. And a couple of conversations I've had more recently is around like the level of detail of that environment. People have obviously got like a outside perspective on it and those sorts of things. But like Kirk, who was on the show recently, he was explaining around the way that in a restaurant he worked, the way they would cut the tape to make a label was a certain way, and it's that crazy level of detail that everyone's like, what the hell? And he was explaining it's like the skill he's been trying to develop is being able to communicate why that stuff's important. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, we do it this way and it seems a bit mental, it seems very crazy and like it seems unnecessary, but we are at the top of our game and we know that that's needed. Do you also struggle with communicating why attention to detail is sometimes so important when it's probably in the annoying things your team don't need?
Yeah, I do. And I'm still learning this skill. And I think it comes to different levels. I think for individuals who are just starting their careers, it's actually about their reputation. It's actually about, you've done such great work.
Yeah.
But there's one little typo that you have just is going to reverse all the great work that you've done, and it's not worth it. It takes you 1 minute to make this piece of work perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but at least like do that little checks. And so I think they can understand that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the operating beliefs of the company, I think we need to move with momentum. And so how do you square with that? And there's pockets. It's not about needing to have every detail perfect. I don't think that is. It's about the important things that we need to get into, like customer psychology, like product packaging. These are the ways where it's the biggest leverage, where attention to details is going to give you outsized impact.
Yeah.
So think about, how do we actually think about the attention to details there?
Amazing. So after, I mean, we were speaking about Dragon's Den before, but after being live for a period of time, you did end up going on the Den. Did you apply? Were you approached? What was the?
Oh, I hustled my way in.
You hustled your way in.
Yeah, a lot of my story is about just hustling and
I can
grinding.
tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Emailing the CEO of FedEx. Fair enough. Why did you want to go on the show if you'd already raised 5 million quid?
Yeah, I feel like I need an outlet to tell my story. I need an outlet for women to hear that they're not alone in suffering from bladder problems, forcing to live a small life. I think the problem of this category, I would say our enemy actually is accepting that this is going to be the end point. Right. And we're here to say, no, that's not true. And trust us and try us. And I think that story, it's very hard to tell that on a social media ad, really. Yeah. And I thought Dragon's Den's going to be a perfect platform. So then I can be challenged. I can be challenged like about the business. I can get amazing business people to say, this is not working, this is working. And I think it was such a valuable experience just from, I guess, imparting some of their knowledge and seeing what part of the story that they felt is investable. What part of the story is like, we're not sure. And the parts that like Steven is not sure about, I already knew the CAC and the LTV is not in the right place at that time. And there are questions about, why can't competitors do it? But I knew why they're not doing it. They want someone to do it until it's proven for them to get into it, And then, but what was lovely is that they bought into the story. They understood the need for this category. And just for that, even the economics wasn't stacking up. Even though there's a lot about the business that is not proven, they were still willing to be like, I'll give you an offer. I'll be in that journey. I'll be with the journey with you. And so I think that was a really good experience. And, prepping for Dragon's Den helps me to understand the business actually a lot more. Yeah. Brought so much clarity to what is needed in the business to work and what is just noise.
You obviously got some offers. You didn't take them, I think, in the end. The company was you valued the company about 10 million quid, I think, at the time. And from memory, the offers just didn't work out because it was quite a small amount you were giving away and that sort of stuff. Fun question, who did you really want to invest, if you could pick one of them?
Emma Greedy.
Oh, because she was a guest, right. Why her?
I see a little bit of her, actually. I see a little bit of me in her and vice versa. Like, her story is also one that is trying everything, grinding, hustling, get her way into the dreams of her lives. And I just love that part of her. But also, she talks about her own incontinence. She has 4 children. And if we want to go to the US market, I think she will be amazing for that. But actually, it's also about storytelling. I think she's a great storyteller.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, because she was behind Good American and that kind of stuff, right? So she just knows how to convey a message and a meaning.
A message and a meaning that will work with today's culture.
like coming out of the show and obviously not raising the money and not getting the investment and stuff, did you sort of feel like you had done what you wanted to do anyway because you got a chance to tell your story?
Definitely not.
Right.
It's like I need to do more of these.
Yeah.
I need to get, more opportunities to be able to tell the story in so many different formats. And honestly, the story has also changed a little bit. At the time, it was about smashing this taboo.
Yeah.
Wide open, destigmatizing it, really say like F you to incontinence, like this angry teenager that's shouting about a category. And the story has changed a little bit. Like we're an evidence-backed brand. We're actually about women's muscles.
Yeah.
And figuring out how we communicate this new vision or new way of like matching it with today's culture. Like I want to tell that story now.
How has that changed the product lineup? Because you've done more that, like at the time of leaving the den, I think you had a couple of products, effectively a few SKUs.
Yeah.
And then you've gone into develop quite a lot. Is that part of that story changing?
After the den, we've only pushed out 2 new products.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, 2 new other supplements.
And they were planned when you're in the den.
They were planned after.
Planned after. And was that part of that sort of story changing?
I think that the changing of the story is required not because of the den.
Right.
I think a part of it is because I realized how important trust and getting the medical community to be on my side. And that's why we need to invest in all that.
Got it.
And we're still investing. We're publishing 2 papers at the end of the year.
Because I think Deborah was asking you quite a lot about that,
Yes.
right? She was, because that's a big thing, I think, for her. I've seen her do that a few times. She really goes in on that area.
Yeah.
She gets it, right? She knows why it's so important. So did that make you react? Did that make you learn that we need to go further into this?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that was like a stamp of like, we need to move and we need to invest in those pillars now. And how do we ring fence an amount that's not going to kill the business for us to be able to do it?
How much would you be spending on that?
We spent about 3 million in R&D so far.
3 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's 3 million not just to help your business grow, but help the category grow and help others grow. And
the work has not been seen so far, the 3 million. There's no ROI in that. The ROI is going to be a long term. I'm in this company for the long run.
Right.
Like I want products to be in the market and that benefits not just women now, but the next generation and the generation after. And I think a lot of brands today, and I mean in this culture of instant gratification, investors want to see J curves. I really want to embrace the art of building slowly. I think patience is like a really underrated trait of building sustainable businesses and sustainable brands that people can trust. A lot of amazing brands today we see have been around for a long, long time. And we see the tip of the iceberg of these exponential growth brands. And we think that this is success, but actually success is over decades. You build value into a brand that is not going to be replaced tomorrow by a new Gen Z brand. I think that is why I'm here.
Why is that so important to you?
I think it goes back to I don't want one more woman to sit in this waiting room for 3 hours and then be told you don't have a problem, go home. You're just imagining that you have bladder problems. I mean, this is the state of affairs today.
Is that really what people are saying?
It is. Like a huge proportion of older women who have UTI are being diagnosed saying that you have delirium. That's really it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then UTI then leads to actually bladder problems are the one main cause for people going into care homes and nursing homes and then end of life. Because they're not independent anymore. And then they're not very mobile because they need to be around toilets. And if you think about it, this problem starts after childbirth, during pregnancy.
Right.
You from 35 years old to 80 years old, you have 45 years of your life to actually do something about this. So when you think about this problem in this horizon, there's no way I can use shortcuts to build Jude. I mean, we have tried many shortcuts. You can't really growth hack giving women dignity back. I don't think you can.
No, makes sense. What has been, I mean, after the den, you were on the den 2024, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
the growth from there to where we are today has been quite exponential.
Yeah.
Just to put some numbers towards it, revenues when you were in the den, the size of the brand at that point?
It was about like 90 to 100K a month. And
Right.
now we're doing about...
So you're doing like what, 1.1 to 1.2 million a year? And now you're doing...
We're doing like more than 1.2 million a month. So we have a 10 times growth since...
In 2 years?
In 2 years, yeah.
That's incredible.
I think it's incredible for this category. Like I say, there's no shortcuts, and we're embracing the arts of building slowly.
You're not really building that slowly.
But the den is actually an accelerator.
Right.
And I think we have to find little accelerations because we do need validation. We do need to test product market fit, for these different customer groups that we're going after. And so without these little accelerations need to come from the right things that we're doing, the right partnerships, the right brand exposure. And it's not just about, we want to work with 200 influencers and boom, there you go. Like that I think that is what I'm saying about building slowly. Building thoughtfully, I think.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying in terms of like, yes, you guys have 10x the company in 24 months, basically.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly fast. It must be one of the biggest success stories of the den from a kind of revenue and growth perspective. But you're not wanting to do that every 2 years if it's then just going to fall off a cliff on year 6 or 7, right? It's about that sustainability. Out of interest though, in those 24 months, what do you think was the biggest driver of that growth? It's not Facebook ads and it's not influencers. What is it?
I think it's discipline.
Right.
Discipline to, going back to attention to details, going back to understanding that customer very, very well.
Yeah.
And then showing them like creatives and content to reflect that is a woman like you. And if you see yourself in this woman on Facebook or on Instagram, she is much more willing to take action like that day when they see it. And I think that it's about that discipline of like really resonating and speaking to that woman so then they feel heard again. Yeah.
What's the hardest part of that growth been for you personally?
I think actually team and people.
Right, okay.
And we were 13 people last year still for a big part of last year. Until end of the year, we increased it to 17. So we're a very lean team for the revenue that we're making. And I'm actually a very frugal person, like personally, as well as with the company. And what I've learned is that you actually need to hire ahead of the curve.
Right.
And the system that once were working when you're 13 people, jumping to 17 is a completely different beast. And then the talent you need to bring in is also different. And once you bring those talents in, the way of you working with them is also very different. So it is a personal leadership shift as well as a complete mindset shift of the foundations that we would need to build for the business for it to actually be sustainable.
Have you ever questioned the way you lead that team?
Oh yeah, every day.
Really?
Every day, yeah.
What's the biggest question you ask yourself?
I guess, am I the right founder for this business? Am I still
You really ask
providing
yourself that
value?
question?
Am I still providing value for the team and this business? I think it's actually a good question to ask because you just didn't auditing the way that you are working and auditing where else can I add value. Like we've just hired a COO and she's fantastic. She's amazing. And she took probably like 80% of what I was doing. And so then I need to find a new role for myself, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And this new role needs to add value. Like people need to feel that I'm not micromanaging them. So what is that role?
It's almost that thing of like trying to fire yourself, isn't it? That's the growth bit, but also you do get to the point where you're a bit lost in the business as it's growing and scaling up.
You have to equip different skills. And I think you have to like acknowledge what strengths you have to take you to where you are, and then look forward to like, okay, this is where you want to be, and these are the new skills I have to accumulate. Maybe it's even better storytelling, maybe it's doing more podcasts. And I think that applied to Jude. That also applied to like my life and my childhood. Like going back to your question, those like inherited beliefs that I had about needing to prove myself, needing to be seen, like it took me to where I am, and then I need to then take away what's not serving me anymore.
Yeah.
So I think doing that every 2 years, every year and a half is actually really good exercise.
So what's the future in your mind for the business? Where do you want it to go? Where do you think it can go? Because you were in Dragon's Den 2 years ago, 10 million quid valuation. 24 months later, you're doing 16 million in revenue. I think you're predicting to grow again this year, and you want to grow sustainably. But what does that really look like in your mind for the vision of the business?
The vision of the business is every woman in the UK, the US, and Europe know, okay, I have bladder problems, urinary problems, pelvic health problems. The first brand that comes to mind is Jude. Like, I think it's a global business that I want to build. It's a global generational household brand that I want to build. And if I think about that, I always set goals for myself, but I'm very flexible with timelines and timescales. Because, you know, when I first had the idea that I want to start some kind of organization, my goal was like 1 million revenue immediately. So I set really harsh and quite ambitious goals for myself, but I'm always quite flexible on when I'm going to achieve it.
Yeah.
I think as long as the direction is right and the inputs and the people around you are right, you're going to get there. And there's no point of like, by year 5, I need to do this. By like, you can plan all you want. Even business model the way out of it. And it's really important. Your finances in the right place. But you've just got to give yourself this grand vision of like what your life is and work towards it.
You were saying earlier that there was a period of time when you were starting one of the other businesses and you weren't quite ready. Do you feel you're ready now for what you think the future is going to be for the business and how quickly it's growing?
I think I'm ready. I think I still have a lot of skills and a lot of mindset shifts that I would need to make. Like I talked about this kind of ladders and walls approach. So like essentially it's kind of a model of how you look at your life and your career. Like if you're climbing the right ladder but towards a wrong wall, then there's no point really. If you're climbing the wrong ladder but towards the right wall, you need to find a different ladder to go forward. And I feel like I have the right wall. I have the right direction. I have the right destination.
Amazing.
Now it's about deciding where to climb and how to climb. And, you know, through these different ladders, you will then have plateaus because after one ladder, you need to stand and look at where else. And that is what I'm saying, overcoming challenges is the plateau.
Yeah.
Because they are your biggest springboard. And if you stand there and you look around, you get a minute to think about not this, but this. And if I want to climb this, I need to have these features of myself that I need to acquire before I can actually climb it. If not, I will just fall off the ladder. And so, you know, I think at every stage, I need to do it. I feel like founders are doing that anyway. Like people say reinvent yourself at every stage. I think it's quite dramatic. But I do think you need to audit what gave you, what strengths that you had that gave you what you have right now, what actually is a double-edged sword that you have to take off, and what else you need to put in your life so then you can go even further.
I love that. So my last question is, what does it take to build a business like Jude? What's it taken from you? What is it you have to give it? What's the secret sauce?
Yeah, I think there is a both and approach.
A both and approach.
Yeah. You can be resilient, but you can also like cry a little bit because it's part of the process. You know, you can be both like shouting about this category and being very mindful about what you shout about. I think it's this approach. I feel one need for building a category that no one wants to talk about, a category that doesn't have inherent virality, a category that actually need a lot of evidence science. So you have to have the resilience, but you also need to give yourself the time and the rest. So I think it's the balance that you need to have.
I love that. It's been so lovely to speak to you. And I mean, you built an incredible business. Like, I just think the impact it's having is amazing. And I think that that's very hard to sometimes do because high impact businesses sometimes don't financially work. So the fact that that is what you're building, I think is deeply inspiring. And I wish you all the luck with it and the next phase. I know you're going to grow it slowly and sustainably, but I'm sure it will continue to skyrocket. But thank you for all the insight as well. And your journey of going through that is such a different journey than I've ever spoken to before in many ways because of the different nuances to it and the different changes. But congratulations. And I'm sure you're incredibly proud of the team behind it as well. But thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of the women who actually trusted us and took action for their own bodies. Like, that is the most important thing for me, really.
I love that. Well, look, thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Thank you.